Well, for the very first time, one of the top bosses at the IRS today sat in front of Congress to answer questions about Obamacare, tax penalties, and the IRS's targeting of conservative groups. As important as all that is, one top Democrat made news when he mocked the hearing with an attempt at a comedy routine comparing the whole thing to the Salem witch trials. Watch.
Have you been consorting with the devil?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Are reports that you can fly accurate?
Greatly exaggerated, sir.
Have you been involved in any way in trying to pervert our youth in Salem or anywhere else?
I certainly hope not, sir.
Isn't that funny? Joining us now for the first time as a Fox News contributor, congratulations, Dr. Ben Carson. Great to see you, sir.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on your new show as well.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, I was amazed to watch this hilarious back and forth, and in the wake of something that was very serious, I mean, so serious, the president rushed out to the microphones when the IRS scandal broke, and the head of the IRS got booted and so on, and yet now, a couple months later, it's a laugh riot, and any investigation into it is compared to the Salem witch trials. Your thoughts as somebody who was targeted yourself by the IRS?
Well, you know, it's not terribly surprising because if you read Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals, it talks about the need to ridicule. It also talks about never having a real conversation with your adversary because that humanizes them, and your job is to demonize them. And therefore, we see people coming out and saying about those who oppose Obamacare, for instance, that they want older people to die, they want kids to be deprived of food, and that, you know, all of these things are just straight out of the text. And what's really interesting is, you know, Vladimir Lenin, one of the founders of socialism and communism, he said socialized medicine is the keystone of the arch to the socialist state. In other words, you got to get the socialized medicine as the foundation because it gives you control of the people.
Well, it's a serious
question. Once you have control of them, you can do whatever you want.
It's a serious question because one of the reasons this Democrat, this Virginia Democrat, Gerald Connolly, was suggesting this was a witch hunt is she was questioned quite a bit about a memo between. She used to run that group that was doing the targeting. And so she was questioned quite a bit about a memo that she exchanged because she left that to go run the Obamacare piece of the IRS. A memo she had with White House officials that they believed discussed confidential taxpayer information. And they wanted to know whether she was sharing information she maybe shouldn't have been sharing with White House operatives for political purposes. And that was a charge she denied and so on. But the, you know, holding up the memo and discussing it with her had to be dismissed instantly with this attempt at humor.
Absolutely. And, you know, what's really surprising and very serious, and I think is being missed in this whole discussion, is that the fundamental relationship between the people and the government is shifting and has shifted with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. It puts the government now at the pinnacle of the power structure. So we are now government-centric as opposed to people-centric. And I don't think the average person even understands what's going on. This is very, very serious.
She was asked about, you know, why should the American people trust you? Why should they trust the IRS, you know, in the wake of everything we've seen? And she tried to assure Congress today that there are firewalls now that have been put up. Because when you go online to these exchanges, and you know, if you can get on and you can get your information in, that information is sent to, ultimately, the IRS can access it. And the question is, well, who's watching the IRS and who's going to prevent them from sharing it with somebody they shouldn't share it with? And she basically was saying, trust us, trust us.
And as I've said before, you know, the IRS is currently under investigation by the House Ways and Means Committee. When in the past have you taken an organization that is under federal investigation and placed them in charge of a major new program? Does that make any sense at all? I don't know what's happened to common sense in our country, but we need to get it back in a hurry.
I know you do feel, I saw you on O'Reilly a couple of weeks ago talking about it, but I know you do feel that you were targeted by the IRS. You find the timing suspicious. Shortly after you first spoke out about Obamacare in an unfavorable way at the National Prayer Breakfast. The evidence on that pretty compelling. Any other people come out to you after that testimonial, Dr. Carson, and offer similar stories to you?
Oh, yes. Yes, many people have told me that. I get it every place I go. But, you know, the interesting thing is the agent who was in charge said, Ben Carson, I don't know who Ben Carson is. The National Paragraph was, I didn't hear anything about this. So, you know, what I'm saying is, even if it was accidental, are they so incompetent that they have no idea who they're investigating, in which case they need to go find another job? And if they are targeting people, that needs to be investigated, exposed, and corrected before they're placed in charge of something so important as 1/6 of our economy.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the people crying at that, the conservative groups and Tea Party groups crying before members of Congress about the pain and suffering they went through as the IRS probed into their lives and their personal lives and their families and so on. And just to see them yucking it up as questions are asked of the IRS official today, the optics are not so good.
And we see the House being demonized for exercising doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
We have a divided government so you can check excesses.
Dr. Carson, welcome aboard.
Thank you. So nice to be with you.
All right, see you soon.